Hey, this is Chuck Holton on today's Hot Zone. I am on the U.S.-Mexican border in New Mexico. And for those of you who wonder whether or not we need a barrier, this is all the fence there is right now. We're going to talk about it with some ranchers that live here on today's Hot Zone.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey folks, I'm Chuck Holton. Thanks for being with us on today's Hot Zone. I am in New Mexico today, and this is the border between the United States and Mexico. So right now I'm in the United States, and now I'm in Mexico. So that's how hard that is to get across. So we're going to talk about a wall. We're going to talk about some of the threats to the ranchers right here. You might notice right here, look at this. This tube has been cut and has been fixed. Can you see that? And that's because the narco traffickers drive truckloads of drugs through here on a very regular basis, almost daily. And all they do is they come up and cut this barrier and drive right through. So I talked to some ranchers who have lived here. Their family's been on this land for more than 100 years. We're going to see what the biggest threats are that they're facing. Check out these interviews.
My name's Russell Johnson. I'm a fourth generation out here to be ranching with my family. And we ranch out here. Other members of our family farm. And this is the barrier that we've got in one stretch of the area that my family farms. And as you can see, it serves no purpose to stop vehicles or people. It's been cut multiple times. You can step right over it. I mean, it does nothing to stop illegal traffic from coming through. It's not even a deterrent. They ramp over it, cut it, climb over it. Nothing about this stops illegal traffic from entering our country.
And the cattle.
And cattle.
Tell me about that.
So as you can see, a baby calf can crawl right under this. A mama cow can jump over it. Horses, we've had horses get into this area, and with that, they can bring any kind of diseases and expose our country and our livestock industry to diseases that we've essentially eradicated from our industry, and it poses a huge food safety risk.
Tell me about why you're not seeing any Border Patrol agents down here.
Right now, we've been on the border for a few hours, and we've seen one Border Patrol agent, and the reason we're not seeing any Border Patrol agents is because of the influx of people that have been crossing in El Paso and the Antelope Wells area, and it's overwhelming the Border Patrol agents, and they can't process them quick enough. So what they're doing is they're farming out all of these people to the outer stations like Lordsburg and Deming, and what that's doing is pulling agents off of the line from patrolling the border to now they're up there processing, babysitting, cooking, and running these people around to their various spots before they get processed and then kicked back loose into the United States waiting for a court hearing, anywhere from 3 years from now.
And so here, tell me about that they're your only law enforcement, really.
So out here, we're so secluded and remote. Our sheriff's department is spread thin as it is, and so we rely heavily on Border Patrol for our only form of law enforcement out here. And so with this influx of people drawing down the manpower within the Border Patrol, we're basically left lawless out here, and we don't have any form of law enforcement out here, especially whenever they take the Border Patrol off the line.
All right, so there's a lot of politicians who say that the U.S. border is as secure and as safe as it's ever been, and there's no need for any kind of a barrier more than we have right now. Well, I'm currently in northern Mexico, right on the U.S. southern border, and I'm going to cross into the United States right now, and I want to show you just how quickly I can do this. Just how quick can I get over the border. Here I am, and I'm in the United States, just like that.
Well, what typically happens when they come out, if they're not being chased, and they're not usually coming out, they'll come out and close gates. They'll try to stand the fence back up, but then when they get chased, they come back and they drive through fences and gates, and because they're trying to get back into Mexico, and they typically come back the same way they came out. you can see these pretty good roads.
Yeah,
These were just 2-track rough ranch roads. But
Do you maintain these?
mm-mm.
Border Patrol.
Border Patrol maintains these roads right here.
That's contracted.
Oh, okay.
It's what, Russ?
Contracted.
Yeah, it's
not
contracted.
border patrol agents
Yeah.
who have to do it.
Oh, right.
It's
Yeah.
contracted out.
Yeah.
So, tell me about how long your family's been out here and everything.
Well, my grandfather came here in 1918. We've been here 101 years this year. And I've lived here my whole life.
Wow. When you were a kid, what was the state of relations with the Mexicans?
It was okay. I mean, we had people crossing that were just looking for a better life, looking for a job, something to eat, something to drink. Where today it's a whole different ballgame.
What's like compare the two?
Well, I think people today, what we have coming through us mainly is the violence, the more violent type of people, the more drug traffic, more desperate type of people, a lot more dangerous.
Monument 32, Mexico has had lookouts that can monitor Border Patrol activity to the east and to the west from that vantage point.
And they do have scouts that go up there?
Yes, they've had scouts up there. We've heard walkie-talkies going off, cell phones going off on the south side, and that's just from the lookouts up there, keeping an eye on Border Patrol activity, and us as well.
This right here is what the Border Patrol calls 19 Canyon, right here, and we've been told many times we ought to stay out of here because of the danger aspect of it, but we can't. We have to keep an eye on our border, and this is where we've had a lot of cattle stolen right here in this draw right here.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the fence right there, isn't it?
That's the fence. And it looks shitty. I mean, it's
A whole lot of nothing.
It's had thousands of people trample over it and vehicles driven through it. I mean, it's old.
Right here behind me are thousands of migrants in a little facility that the Border Patrol had to construct underneath the bridge to Juarez, Mexico. And that's because they are capturing about 4,000 people a day now right here in this sector. They said that having 6,000 people in custody would be a crisis. Right now, they have over 13,000 people in custody, and the Border Patrol is saying they're drowning. They're having to pull people off of law enforcement duties, things that are very important to the national security of this country, in order to process all these people here. And because they don't have the facilities to take care of them, they're having to just let them leave.
This is 3 miles of continuous barbed wire fence that we maintain at our expense, and we're the only ones that look at it. Border Patrol doesn't even look at it. Their patrol basically stops at the end of this vehicle barrier right here, and we're left to keep an eye on the rest of it.
So there's 3.5 miles of this just on your property.
Yes.
And anybody that wants, I mean, there's absolutely, it's barely even a speed bump.
Right. There's not much deterrent right here with this barbed wire fence.
So what would you say is the biggest threat to you and your family because of the state of this barrier?
Well, first and foremost, it's always our safety. There's nothing here that's going to deter a vehicle from coming through, that's going to be speeding down the roads that my family travels. That's not going to stop a criminal alien from coming across and potentially doing harm to my family. And that's first and foremost our concern, is our family safety. And then secondly, it's our business. If this fence goes down because of a vehicle drive-through or people stomping on it, all of our livestock could potentially go into Mexico, and that's how we put beans on the table. And so...
how many have you lost? You said you've lost quite a few, haven't you?
Yeah, for the last 22 years, we're short approximately 260 head that could have potentially gone into Mexico. Some of those have, in fact, gone to Mexico because we have retrieved some of those, but most of them we haven't recovered.
So you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of cow flesh.
Yep. So with all the cattle that we're missing, it's up in the figures of hundreds of thousands of dollars that we've lost in income.
What would you say is the general sentiment among the Border Patrol that you talk to as far as what they would like to see out here? What would help them do their jobs better and keep America safer?
I think that they are all in favor of a physical barrier, like a wall, like what we're seeing, in Santa Teresa, a 30-foot bollard-style barrier that's gonna prevent any vehicle from being able to ramp over it. It's definitely going to slow down probably most foot traffic because most people can't climb over the wall. And so I think that, combined with more boots on the ground and immigration reform as well, is going to solve a lot of these problems.
Yeah, I think if you stop that pull factor, the thing that makes people want to come here in the first place, the fact that they can get a lot of programs and money that they can't.
There's too many loopholes in our immigration system that these people are exploiting, and they know how to because it's being advertised down south that, hey, these are the tricks and tools to the trade to get over here. So,
have you ever heard of them using drones or hang gliders or anything like that over here? I know they do that out here.
Absolutely. We've had the ultralights. We've had quite a few ultralights in the past coming through, and the only purpose of that would be to be dropping drugs over on this side for people to pick up.
Have y'all ever found drugs on your farm, on your ranch?
We have found drugs on our ranch in the past.
Tell me about that. I mean, what happens then?
Well, you make a phone call to Border Patrol, and you leave it alone because you don't know who or what's watching that load of drugs, and so you want to minimize your involvement in it. And basically, you call the authorities, and that's the end of it.
They come out and they take care of it. You just stay away from it.
Mm-hmm.
About does cash come back across the other direction, or do they usually take that through a port of entry?
I think that usually goes through a port of entry. We don't. The only southbound traffic we have through our ranch is people that have driven through and they're trying to make a run back to the border. That's the only southbound traffic that we have.
So do they typically take those vehicles back with them, or do they often leave the vehicles on your side?
It depends. If they can get back to an area like this with the barbed wire fence, they'll just blow through it and get back into Mexico and try another day. If they can't get back to an area with the barbed wire fence and they get to the barrier, they don't have the luxury of ramping over from the north side, so they usually bail out and run back into Mexico, because 9 times out of 10 that vehicle's stolen anyway, so it doesn't mean anything to them if they lose that vehicle.
Tell me about that pasture that's the farthest west on yours. That you said you had 9 vehicles on it and all that. Tell me about that.
Back in 2005 and 6, when the traffic was so bad, we had about 9 vehicles at one time that were just left abandoned in that pasture. And we had to abandon the use of that pasture for a couple years because the traffic was so bad in there. And
what's the danger to your cattle?
Well, we experienced a lot of sickness in our cattle from all these groups coming through, running cattle off of water, sending the cow one way and the calf the other way, come back a couple hours later and get run off again by all these people coming through. And they were breaking out into pastorella pneumonia, which is a stress-induced disease that if not caught within 24 to 48 hours, they're dead. And the traffic was so bad in that area that we finally had to pull all of our cattle out of there so we didn't suffer any more losses.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Live Fire Media. Copyright 2019.